That's really cool. I appreciate you sharing. So now we're getting into the pitch deck review. We really get to go into, the depth of this. So what is the purpose and vision of the company, and what is the value proposition that you are providing?
Right. So Klasium is an online learning management system for higher educational institutions to deliver online learning to students. So online learning, I feel, has been a mess for a long time since LMS softwares have been in existence. So there are many companies that have tried to perfect it, but somehow or for some reason they have failed to achieve the certain goal. And what we're offering is that our first goal is to deliver a better educational experience.
Okay.
For instance, when I was in college, my whole course was online. So everything I do has to be on a software. And if that is not to a certain good level where I can even use it on a daily basis, it's difficult for me. And when I talked to my professors, it was difficult for them as well. Right. So our primary goal is to make the educational learning experience better and easier. So let LMS be one less thing you worry about when you go into college.
Yeah.
You focus on learning and we'll do the rest.
I like that.
Our line is that we simplify educational experiences.
Okay.
That is our prime focus, and that is what our decisions are centered around.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And then the value proposition, what the value proposition is, you're making it easier, you're making it better, all that great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our value proposition first and foremost is better user experience.
Okay.
That is like the key element or the best value proposition that we would want to put forward, because this is the value proposition that all the companies right now have failed to deliver.
Right. So that's what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. It's not pricing. It's not like AI or just AI. AI is part of it,
Sure.
but best user experience. When you log into the software, you're not gonna itch your head. You're not gonna have to take a headache pill just to use the software.
So let me ask you, is the UI bad on the user experience end and the back end data, like on both ends? Because I don't know if you've been on the administrative side of some of these systems.
Sorry, can you reiterate the question?
Yeah. Is the UI and the UX, the design, is it terrible for like all the students? And because, obviously is there some probably type of programming for the professors to maybe upload? Is both systems terrible or just both systems bad?
Yeah. So what happens is when an LMS is deployed into a college, professors and students usually have the same sort of interface.
Okay.
On the front end side, but just the professors have certain options where they're allowed to edit, modify, and upload content for their courses.
Okay.
But even that process is difficult. So that is also a simplification that we're going through.
Right.
And this interface is common for students and professors. And then there's a whole admin side that is for the administrators. They have a different interface. And that is also something that we're simplifying.
That's awesome. Yeah. What, if you don't mind me asking, so I'm very curious. That's why I love doing this. What do you think is the main problem with these interfaces? Is it the ability to add media? Is it the ability to comment on people's posts? Like, what is the thing that's really, stunning that difference?
Right. So let me share you an example, and by that I can maybe make it easier for people to understand it. So I'm gonna go with, for examples, for student and professor for both these scenarios. So right now I'm a student, right? So what is my first focus when I go into a college? It's communicating with my professor when I have a doubt about something, and it's about going through my course content, right? So we did a whole map through of the existing products. So I have to click 8 times on the screen just to go to my learning content.
Okay.
I have to go through 8 iterations or 8 screens just to go through my learning. Yeah. And if I want to message my professors, there's just a plain white box in the software where I type in my message and it's just there.
Right.
There's no, it just looks bad. It's like, it looks so bad. It could have been coded by an early stage HTML developer.
Yeah.
And it's 2024.
Right.
It's high time we bring out the innovation. So, and when I consider professors, let's say let's say a professor wants to upload a course content file on the platform. So there, I don't want to name the product.
We're not calling out anybody, guys, but you know who they are.
Yeah. So when the professor clicks on the plus button to upload a file, let's say he clicks on the plus button, there's a screen that pops up. He clicks on upload, and then he can select the categories of the content that he wants to upload. Let's say he, by mistake, clicked on the wrong category. He can't go back. How basic is that? He has to close everything down. He has to go to the plus button all over again. Then he has to open all the categories and then select again. This is such a basic thing for the software to be doing, and it's not doing that.
That's so interesting. Let me ask you, this is what I thought would be really cool too, because again, I wasn't in college that long ago. I always thought too, in the messaging system specifically, if there was like an option to like do a video call or schedule like some kind of video call within that, would be so much better as well, because you're scrambling to figure out where am I going to, reach out and actually have a call with them. They're like, let's do a virtual meeting. One does Google, Meet, one does Zoom, one does something else. And I said, like, why is that not just built into the messaging? So if you could do that, that would have been for me amazing, or maybe even have a calendar where you could schedule it,
Yeah, we are actually building that kind of a feature. We're calling it workplace, workplace for students. So what happens is if let's say a group of 5 students is working on an assignment and they have certain doubts about what should be in the project or what should be done, they can just give access to that particular file within the system and just call in their professor. The professor can come into the document. They don't have to use any third-party software.
Right.
They can do everything within the system. They can call in the software. The professor can make suggestions, and they can revoke access from the document, so they can freely work on it.
Wow,
there's no need for anything else.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I remember even our collaboration projects. Typically Google Docs was the most common, but there was a lot of issues with. There's a lot of different things you have to use. It almost seems like you mentioned, you're simplifying the experience. You're making it a lot more compact and easy, where you don't have to go to 50 different things to, like you said, it's not that difficult. Like, you think this would be already a thing, because I hadn't done research into this, but I experienced it. So I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome, man. You really simplified that for us. So let me ask you, you kind of went through the problem, you went through the solution, which is our 2 and 3, but on the solution, what is your channel of distribution? So is this typically, this is going to be a web application to kind of start in the startup and then maybe one day develop into some type of mobile application, or where are you guys going with that?
Yeah, so currently not even currently, even in the future, we're gonna have 2 types of distribution. One is SaaS, so it's going to be a cloud service that colleges can enroll and purchase a subscription for the number of users that they want to use.
Okay.
That is one way. And when they opt for it, they also opt for the mobile application, so they can access all the content and all the learnings even on their mobile app.
I'm guessing though the first is the SaaS, or the web application, that's obviously going to be the first, because that needs to be really good.
Yeah.
Good. I like to simplify that, because yours obviously seems like it would be a web application. I just like to make sure, because some people have interesting ways to start the product. Sometimes it's a great idea. Sometimes I'm like, are we sure we want to do that? But that I definitely see that. So this is number 4, is competitor analysis. So what you've talked a little bit, you've harped a little bit on kind of the issues without maybe naming, or we want to. I don't care if he's calling them out now. I don't care. But what are, again, you're just reiterate your biggest separators from your competitors, and also maybe what are your competitors like doing in revenue and stuff like that? Like, what are these type of numbers they're putting up?
Right. So I want to do the competitor analysis in 2 ways. So we basically have 2 types of competitors. There are softwares that are open source, and there are private companies that have software that ask money for using that software. So the products that are open source include Moodle. Moodle is one of the largest learning management systems that is currently being used. Then there's Canvas. Canvas is also it's also open source.
That's what I used. I was using Canvas. Yeah.
And then 2 major private competitors that we're trying to compete with is Blackboard, and then there's Brightspace, D2L Brightspace.
Okay.
Yeah. So what these so the open source competitors we identified is the problem is that there are too many contributors to the project, that the software has become too clunky for deployment. For instance, if a new college wants to deploy the product, they have to employ IT engineers, and then they can modify the product, and then they have to adjust it according to their needs. So even that costs money. Instead of doing that just by a good software that is ready to use.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that the actual universities are tweaking it for what they're trying to do. I mean, I would assume that most universities kind of have the same way, like you would want the same kind of system to learn if it's the most optimal way. Why would you want, I could be completely wrong in that, but why would you want a different system for the same, I don't know, it's still a university, you know what I mean?
All right. So an open source software or any software has like more than 200 or 300 features integrated into the system. So there are many colleges. So any company charges per feature price in this sector. So let's say if my product has AI features and basic learning features, if a college doesn't want to use the AI features, then the pricing of that just goes out. Okay. It can be taken out of the product. So that's what happens when colleges modify the products.
I got you.
And that's how they tone down the pricing and adjust the infrastructure of deployment and everything.
Do y'all have a similar pricing model with features, or is y'all's going to vary in that?
No. So the pricing for us is not something that we've worked upon. We do have a goal to make it a bit cheaper than the existing offerings. So the private colleges, I have done my research. I think I'm not going to name the products, but their per student cost goes down to $7.
Well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself too. I kind of like to jump ahead because I just get so curious. And I think with pricing too, and this is one of the first times I might say this, so guys, don't freak out in the comments, but pricing isn't a big a concern if you can solve the actual problem. If you solve this problem, I mean, universities print money. We know how much we pay for tuition, right? So if you solve the problem, I think pricing, of course, it's a big deal. But if you're relatively priced, but you're better than anything on the market, it doesn't matter. So I jumped a little ahead on that, but I was just curious on if y'all were going to structure it that way. We're going to get back on track. So for the market potential, this is what I like to do for the market potential. It's the TAM, SAM, and SUM. So the total addressable market, the serviceable addressable market, and then or maybe I get the two confused, but serviceable addressable market and then
obtainable.
Yeah, that's right. I'm literally I'm dropping the ball here. But yeah, so thank you, thank you so much. But those three for the market potential, go through what yours is. I see you have a slide for that. We're going to put it on screen. Go through those three for me.
Yeah. So the learning management system is not only for colleges, but it's even used throughout companies. So companies also use learning management systems to deliver what their company's vision is and how to use the in-house products. So LMS includes a variety of deployment software. So the total overall industry for LMS is $23 billion.
Okay.
So it's pretty big. And when it comes to higher education, I think we have narrowed it down to $7 billion. So universities across North America spend approximately that much, maybe even in the world. So that's what we have narrowed it down to. And the SOM that we're targeting for is that we want to be a $70 million company in the coming 3 years. So 70 million in 3 years, that is the target that we're going for.
Okay. I appreciate you breaking that down for me. Yeah, and we're going to put it on screen for kind of our viewers to see. And again, this is a great as an investor, they're looking at this saying, is this worth my time? You know, and it also is really effective on the raise as well, because sometimes they'll look at this and be like, you're under, you know, if I really believe in this mission and believe in you, you're under what you're pricing it, or sometimes you're over, you know, and that's good to have. And I think that's why this slide is so important for investors. There says, is there actually a market? And I'll say this, I like that you put it at 70 million as what you want to share, because relative to the total market size, it's pretty conservative. And I think a lot of times you'll see an investor slide and you'll see slides and they're kind of like, what is you know, what, you're not going to capture that, especially not in the time frame. So it's good, but at the same time, investors need some kind of gauge to where your headspace at. The last guess, what we talked about mostly is like, because I was kind of asking, these slides we're about to go over in the forecasting, the roadmap. Some of entrepreneurs feel really uncomfortable putting these slides because they go, I cannot accurately gauge right now what we can do. But if you're conservative and you're upfront about that in the investors, hey, I know you need some kind of gauge to where my headspace is at, but I'm not saying this is the end all be all. I'm very conservative. They will really appreciate that. And I think it's important to have. I really do. So that's good. So what is your ideal customer profile? You mentioned this, but who are you looking to sell to? Who would be the ideal customer that would buy from you?
Right. So as of now, as you would know, we're a startup, right? So we don't have a huge amount of funds that we can allocate to infrastructure and development and team.
Sure.
So as of now, we're going to target colleges who are frustrated with using their existing LMS software, and who want to transition to a better software for a lower price. And the expected size that I'm hoping for is that the college would have at least 30,000 students overall in different programs, excluding STEM programs. So
excluding STEM.
That is excluding STEM. Yeah. So that is something that we're going for.
Why excluding STEM? Is there it's a different?
Yeah. So it's not different, but for some reasons, we're actually building certain features that are catered to STEM, because what usually happens is that STEM is given a normal software, just like everyone else.
Okay. And
for instance, let's take computer science. Computer science is also considered like in STEM, or let's say math. So when it comes to math, what if I want to solve math problems in a software and I want to ask my professor for guidance on that?
Right.
I can't do that. So it would need those kind of features. Of course, if the college wants to opt for the normal,
that would be your next version, or maybe an additional. That's really good, because the first version of your product, you want to make it as niche as possible. Talk about this in software. The niche, those niches you can get it, the better. And you solve one really good problem, and then you expand, right?
Exactly.
That's super smart. And I'm glad the ideal customer profile is so important, because as soon as you get the funds, as soon as you start really picking up this, and I don't even like to call it marketing plan. I'll explain why I call it distribution strategy. But when you get the funds in your hand, you want to know exactly who you're going to target, whether that's actually you deploying those funds or hiring a marketing firm. Say, this is who we want to target this. And have them do it. So that's super good. So in terms of the revenue model, and I know this is kind of a pricing question, so this is difficult. The revenue model, you mentioned that you guys aren't going to be doing the features. Is it going to be an upfront one-time cost based on seats? I'm guessing maybe it's tiered based on seats, the additional software. Where are we? I know we're all over the place. What are we thinking about in terms of revenue model though?
Yeah, so let me simplify it for you. It's going to be a SaaS. It's going to be a subscription service. Okay. So for instance, I'm just going to give you an estimate figure. This is not the final one. I'm just using an example. So let's say a college wants to buy the software for 100 students and cost the college $2,000. So the college would give us $2,000 for the usage of it for 1 year. For 1 year.
Yeah.
And then we would have some deployment charges. So let's say they want to get it implemented in the next 1 month.
Yeah.
So we would have those certain charges, and then it would be a recurring every year revenue.
I got you. And so a setup fee basically to get that upfront revenue, and then the actual subscription.
Yeah. And if we introduce new features such as AI, then it's going to be just an add-on.
Right. I think the setup thing is super important for you, because in startup mode, having any revenue come in the door is going to be huge. So yeah, I was going to say, if you didn't, that setup fee is extremely important, especially for what you're doing, because, and again, your target for colleges, they got so much money, you know what I mean? So asking for $5,000 for setup fee, they're probably not going to look at it differently if they really think you're going to solve that problem. So super good. I would stick to that. Definitely have the setup fee. As you build more features, definitely include those. Is there any free subscription where people can, or not free subscription, 30-day free trial, or anything that you're going to be able to almost like bait them in where they get the taste of it, right?
Yeah. So this is something that we're working on, and this is going to be something that's going to be unique to us. So what's happening right now is that all the competitors that are in the market, they have a contact us page, even on the pricing. So if a certain college administrator or a professor wants to try the LMS, they can't do that unless they contact the company,
Yeah. And
someone
they get
from the sales
sold and they get
team.
all,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, it's not a good place to be in if you're making some decisions that are really quick. So what we want to do is we want to have a demo ready where anyone can just log in through
Mm.
the platform and get a hands-on experience just within minutes.
That's awesome. You know, I've seen on those, what some companies are doing, these startups. This is what I've seen recently is they'll say try demo. And as soon as you click that, it immediately takes to a page with the login and shows how you would actually do it. Because you want, if your whole point is we're solving and simplifying it, you want them to actually see that, you know, because I think that is super important. I think that is a great idea, and that you guys should go all in on that. Because if you had the landing page where everybody goes to this one page and it says try today, like that click button, when they click that, they automatically get to play with the software. That's huge, dude. That's huge.
Definitely.
That would be awesome, dude. I'm telling you that's the move. So in terms of number 8 is evidence of success. This, of course, we don't have customer reviews right now. We're very early, but really the evidence of success is what is the feedback you're getting? I mean, because right now you're talking to people, you're learning more about the product. That's the whole point. What are people saying about it? What's kind of the feedback? What are you getting on this?
Okay. So we're conducting interviews with professors on a daily basis, and as of now, we have done about 10 to 15. We have done 14 interviews with professors,
okay,
out of which 12 have said that we like your design better than the existing software that we're using. We feel that it is much easier and much leaner to use every day. And that is the feedback that we've received from professors. We have also done some surveys in colleges, in my college, and the colleges that my other co-founders belong to. And overall, the stat that we have reached is that 60% of students feel that our software is much better than the existing software that they are using in their college.
Okay.
And they feel that they want a better looking software.
I would say this too. You need a slide for this, and I would say even like the evidence success, because again, all these points, what they'll do is I'm going to give you about 12, 13 points, and I think these are the heart of the investor pitch deck when you're going through and pitching. So I would recommend you go back through after this. I'm gonna send you my notes, and you kind of make a slide for each of these. And I'll give you kind of before and after. We've taken, it's pretty cool, taken some entrepreneurs and gotten it, but I would say even having the video, like if you had the video of the professor talking, and in the investor deck, you could click play and it would play it, dude. I mean, you don't even have to pitch them, because they're getting, this is a professor. We interviewed 10 to 15 professors, and this is what he said about it based on what we showed him and all this. That would be so powerful. And I think taking advantage of that in your pitch deck is super important, as well as having a slide for the surveys. Because my biggest thing is an investor is going to want to know if there's demand. And that's why you're already ahead of the game, doing a wait list, doing a MVP next steps. That's what we talk about at the end, but getting a wait list to show demand. So any way you can see that people want this, an investor is going to love that. All right. So continue to do it. I would keep doing the interviews, but make sure you have slides for both the surveys you've done, because it shows you're really working hard, and also the interviews. That would be super powerful for me.
Definitely super helpful.
Yeah. And also those, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, but like on your website, you need to be putting those interviews, for recording them on social media. I mean, that is a fantastic tool. Taking investors, obviously you need to get permission, but ask them, like, can we post this? Can we put this on our website? That's going to give you, I think, more credibility for those conversions, because the way we're pitching investors is the exact same way that you pitch clients. It's a numbers game. You target the right people, you get the best chance possible, and then you close them. Well, the conversion rate is completely based on the sentiment, if they're the right customer, how you treated them, if you had all the information available. That is what we're doing here. So by informing them, hey, these are what people are actually saying, you're ahead of 80% of people out there who just simply have an idea. They're sending these decks. They're getting, I talked with one when I was going through it. He's like, man, I get 15 decks a day. So how are you going to stand out? And I think one way to stand out, just to goes out there, and I've recommended it to some of our previous investors, when you're sending these cold decks, and I'll show you how to get to the right people, record a 2-minute to 5-minute video on maybe quick background about you and the actual run through the deck. Because a lot of people are cold emailing these half-done decks. They're not built out. If you combine a really great deck with already you recording of 5 minutes, I watch this and I'm like, this guy has it together. He has his product, he has his roadmap solution, all this, the funds can be used for. I'm going to want to immediately get on call with you, and then you can kind of go the full version of that. A lot of investors in her early pitch deck is you have kind of your teaser, pitch deck, but I think having a video, why wouldn't you do a video nowadays? Kind of run through that. So I would recommend when you start doing those emails and you start reaching out to them, great way. LinkedIn is huge, building that LinkedIn. That's how I did it, was LinkedIn. And actually it was word of mouth, but I sat through investor meetings, and that's how I sent an actual video of walking through it. So would recommend that to you to do that. I think you're going to get a lot better close rate. So in terms of forecasting, now I like to have a forecasting slide. And what a forecasting slide is, you don't know pricing exactly yet. But if in the next 3 years, that's typically a good roadmap, 3 years, what do you expect the potential revenue? I know we jumped ahead to, I think, what, $70 million was 3 years is what you said.
Yeah.
You need a more refined roadmap in between. How do we get there? Right? Like, that's great. I love the goal. How do we get though from year one? What do we do year one? What do we do year two? And what do we do year three? And then it's going to be more detailed and refined to, this is actually how we get there. And I think by showing that, showing an amount, showing in year one, we expect 10, universities, this is what the expected payout is. And I'll send you what that looks like. Super big to have. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. I would definitely like to add that in the pitch deck. So the reason that we've not done this is because we're still exploring the possible institutions that would like to try out these private softwares.
Sure.
Because there are many colleges that use open source software. So we're trying to first identify the colleges that would, because as of now, there's a migration cycle that's going on. So every college and university is moving to D2L Brightspace.
Okay. Explain that for everybody.
Yeah, so D2L Brightspace is a LMS software. And what is happening is that the existing colleges are really frustrated with the offerings, the price, and everything that's going on in the college and how the user experience is turning out for professors and students. So Brightspace, I think, as of now, they've established that market position that they are the most viable solution for colleges. So what is happening is last year, the migration cycle started. And as of now, many colleges are transitioning to D2L Brightspace. So this is like the prime time for us. So if we get MVP in the hands of colleges in the next 6 months, I think we would be in a very good position to bring in some revenue quickly.
I got you, because there's a migration, there's a transition. That's interesting. And I would definitely include that on one of your slides, because again, going through your deck, I don't know any of this. You know what I mean? Like I want to see things like that. Like I've identified the market. I see a great transition. We're seeing if you're looking at transitions, just they call it like boomer wealth, but like there's a big wealth transfer about to happen for a lot of people. And how does that affect industries? How does that affect different things? And the fact that you're seeing this in education, the time opportunity is something you need to include in this too. Is why don't I wait a year from now? Well, there's an opportunity cost to that, right? We think right now is the best opportunity to do it, and this is why. Super invaluable, super important. So would definitely include that. That's awesome, man. And you know your stuff. That's good that you know the industry. I mean, I'm sure you've been obsessed with it, thinking about it every night. Like, that's just what we do, right?
Haven't slept.
It's it's obsession. It really is, but it's awesome. So this is a roadmap. Now, a roadmap is huge, and this is something I'm going to show you how this works. Typically, what I like to do is do 8 bullet points, and it gives you basically every 4 months what the company is going to do and release for 3 years. It's a little give or take. Obviously, it's not perfect, but 3 or 4 months, sometimes 5 months of what the company is going to do. So, for example, August 2024, have 150 people on the wait list, launch beta, and pre-seed funding secured, all that. Then even plan out the next 4 months, version 2 of just give a roadmap for investors. Tell them this is our plan, because when they see this pitch deck, I'm not saying you don't, they go, he has no plan. He has no plan, and you do, but you need to show investors, hey, I actually know in the next 4 months everything we're going to do till year 3. And it's again, go back to the planning aspect of it, right? It's super valuable to even show when your Series A is going to be, because a lot of companies, I made the mistake. This was my biggest fault in one of my startups. When I raised the money, I expected we would have more customer revenue come in before we did. We secured the partnerships we wanted. We secured the idea. People wanted it. We did not financially plan at all. And I'm not a CFO. I didn't know. I was just running with what I had. My investor wasn't advising that. It's not his responsibility. It's mine. But I did not financially plan well enough for the company. And because I had no baseline of where I expected to be based on the money raised. So you can raise a lower amount of money, which is fine, but you want to show your investor, okay, in January of 2025, we expect a raise with or without revenue. Because the last thing they want to see your company do is fail because it wasn't financially planned. Uber didn't make money for 10 years, okay? 10, 12, they just made money in 2023. They planned financially very, very well, and the investor, even though they were losing money, they sold it to the next guy, and they keep raising because it was a good idea. It was just going to take time. You need to do the exact same thing. So whether you raise, I've seen what you're raising, whether you're raising less than that or more than that, it's fine. Just go in 12, 18 months. We know in 18 months, we're going to have to raise more money. And that is when you can either sell out your shares, because again, they're going to want to know when they can sell out their Series A. You can sell, or we'd love for you to stay in the company and continue to be an investor.
Right.
Yeah. Just investors seeing that they know, like, they're not trying to let this company fail. They're trying to plan. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
And it's very valuable feedback, and I've noted it down.
Oh yeah, man. It's going to be awesome for you too to gauge as you go along. Like, am I where I was supposed to be? You're kind of like, I expected way more, or I way under, shot that, but it's really good. So 11 is, we're trying to speed it up here. I'm trying to, we're getting close to that, but might run a little over. Just sub an hour is what we shoot for. The marketing plan. And I don't like to even say marketing plan. I say it for the audience, but I like the word distribution strategy, because marketing plan is such a buzzword where you go, I want to market. Everybody markets. I market, she markets, he markets, your cousin markets. Hey, he does this. What is marketing? I like to say distribution. How do you get your product in the hands of your customers? How do you distribute it? How do you get it into their hands, their pockets, their smartphones, their, the website, all that stuff. So if I give you what you're asking for, we're going to show it on screen, guys. Is it $500,000, right? If I give you $500,000, how are you distributing that money?
So our focus for now is, as I mentioned earlier, the product is so large that it requires many people to develop it over time. Because for a college to use even our software as a beta, it has to be good enough or just good enough, even as similar to the products that they're currently using.
Okay.
And for us to take it to that level, we cannot, as of now, invest in sales and marketing because we need that money to go into product development and MVP.
Yeah.
MVP.
I'm going to say this. I don't mean to jump in. That's the last thing you want to tell an investor. I'm just being honest. And the reason why is because the majority of the reasons companies fail, and I give the example, you've heard a million times, audience. I'm going to say it till the day I die. Liquid water is water. There's nothing proprietary about liquid water. And they know they're in water. They understand that. And they're a $1 billion company. Now, you're not water. You're obviously building something better. If you have to spend most of your money into development, you're not raising enough money. Bottom line.
Right.
And we're going to go through the investment allocation here in a second, but your investment allocation should be like 70, because you're not bringing any money coming in the door. You need something coming in the door. Even if it's $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month, you need some revenue. No revenue is not a good place to be. Your overhead's coming, bills are coming in, expenses are. What I recommend, especially in pre-seed startup mode, you need, as quick as you can start making money, you need to make it. Now, what comes with that? And as a product-centered founder, which I love a good product, I was like that. I got obsessed with my product, and it caused me to not spend as much money in marketing and distribution, and it actually hurt me in the long run, okay? I didn't financially plan. I didn't use enough. When we get to the investment money allocation, my recommendation is, and you're about to freak out now based on what you just said, 25 to 30% product, 70% distribution. we're not talking about on this first raise. You can't. Typically, companies nowadays, they're outsourcing from India. You're not seeing the raises you saw 10 years ago, where every developer was a U.S. developer. You raised $5 million pre-seed. Nothing's happened with the company. That's not happening anymore. And it's because of the outsourcing from India and overseas. You can get development work, 5 full-time developers, way cheaper. An investor is not going to want to see you investing that much in the product. Now, on your Series A, your percentages you can reallocate your percentages, because guess what? You're making money. It becomes a way different ballgame when you start making money. Things are more tangible. If you hit that $70 million in 3 years and you start making money in the next 6 months, no investor is going to have any problem with you dumping tons of money into the product. But that is not where you are in pre-seed. You truly need, when you get that funding, you need to use, again, I'm going to say it again, 70 to 75% of that needs to go to distribution. It needs to be targeted strategies, and you have to be very intentional with this money, because the whole point of raising is you're working with limited resources. The product does need to be a tangible place where the school could use it. But maybe what you do with the product is you scrape it even more of what you want to build, and you get it even more narrow. Because if you need $5 million pre-seed to raise for the product or whatever, I hate to say, I have not been a dream crusher. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen in this marketplace. But if you can solve a problem and you only need, let's say, $50,000 to develop it, and you can spend another, let's say, 30%, so not the best at math, maybe $200,000 as a raise, $150,000 goes into distribution, you give yourself a really good chance of starting to bring money in the door, and at a very minute level. So I love the big goal, but I almost think maybe you're going too wide on it, and maybe we should narrow it down. I know it's going to cost us $500,000 just for development. Let's reel that back. What can we get at the most bare bones level to make money? That's what you need to do. You solve a very small problem. You know that it's only going to budget $25,000, $50,000 to do it. Now, as soon as you get revenue in the door, becomes a different ballgame. Okay. When you get revenue in the door and you plan for the Series A, now we're going for it. We're making, $15,000, $20,000 off of small subscriptions. We have a proven record. We have our customers. And not only this, think about this. At that point, your distribution is even cheaper, because now you've already got customers in the door with a product. And now you just release the better version and the better version, the more features and all that. So I would hate to see where you almost bite too much off and you don't get any funding, and you're asking for way too much and it never happens. I would rather you go, how can we get it to this to get to this? And I think you're really shooting for this, which I love. It's a visionary. That's what a CEO does. But you need to start with this to get to that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
What are your thoughts? Give me your thoughts. I've talked a lot.
Yeah. This is a lot of new stuff coming in. So even though I am from a marketing background, I am allocating more funds to product development.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of irony there. So yeah, but I think you are definitely right.
It's tough. I know and I'm gonna tell you this. I realized it after I ran the startup, after it was too late, because basically I had a good idea, I had a good concept. I got to the point where I didn't financially plan. I bit off a little more than I could chew. I probably should have started really low or just done a smaller product. And that was the reason for the failure. I thought the idea was great. There was a lot of people that backed it. We secured partnerships. We bit off way too much. I do not want to see, again, as out there, just some advice, like, don't want to see that happen to you. And being a CEO, your goal, because you're the CEO of the company, correct? Yeah. That is your role. So the goal of CEO is to be a visionary. But right now, not only are you a CEO, you're a COO. You're an operations officer. You're a CFO. You're a financial officer. You have to be, they say you wear many hats as a founder, but in this competitive marketplace, especially where software's become, there's a lot of really smart people, with different hats. And that's not to deter you. It's that you got to evolve to that level of, you got to be really good at a lot of different things. And in this funding game, an investor just does not, that 10 years ago, you could get away with it. These days, it's not how it works. You outsource from India, you outsource from these other casinos, Africa, you're smart about your funds allocation. You're focusing on, you tell the investor, if we don't get monthly revenue, MRR, monthly recurring revenue, we are not going to make money. And you plan for that, and you build that, and you get this to get to this.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to wrap my head around like instantly,
Yeah.
but I think I'm getting the point of how what the focus should be on in the coming
Yeah.
months. And I think I am going to redesign the whole plan and plan a marketing strategy and maybe share it back with you.
No, I appreciate that. And again, my thing to everybody out there, to you, like, I want to see you succeed. And like, when my company didn't work out the way I wanted it to, it crushed me. Like,
Right.
truly, like, I'll tell you, the simplified version of it is we did advertising in grocery stores. We partnered with the independent chain, got to that point, deployed it in stores, didn't financially plan for how long it would take for advertising revenue to come in the door. It crushed me, dude. Got to a point where I was super upset. I was super emotional about it. It took me months to just get through it, tell my family all that stuff. And it was because it was ignorance, but no one got to tell me. So to everybody out there, if you don't bring revenue coming in the door, none of your dreams are happening. And that Mark Cuban, one of your favorite guys, talks about it. He talks about don't go into debt. That's a big thing with him. Just don't. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
And if you tell me the number one skill set to have as an entrepreneur, it's sales. That's what Mark Cuban says, your guy.
Right.
And so he says that because Mark Cuban, what he was so good at in his early days, I think he ran a bar and then he started Micro Solutions. There may have been a company before that, but he was a fantastic salesman. Before the product was really even there, he would go out and sell it. And that is his skill set. And that needs to be your focus, especially as a pre-seed startup founder, is you are, distribution's one thing, and then be a good sales guy. How can I sell it? How can I get it in the hands of people? Then we will make the best product possible, and we will be the top of the world,
Right, definitely.
So, all right. So now the last slide is we do the founder team background and relevant experience. You need to include this. You need to include who you are, who your partners are. They're going to want to know who are these other guys with him, right? Who are these other guys? Give some background on your relevant experience. Maybe, you were a university student and you used it. That would be super key. Give the relevant experience. So maybe your background in computer science, their background, how many years they've been doing it. All that's going to be helpful for this slide. Just include that.
Definitely.
Just include that. And then we have two more things. We have the ideal investor profile. So this is a fun one because a lot of people go ideal customer. I've heard that. I know what that is. Who is your ideal investor though? Give me that.
Right. So first and foremost, I think that like you said earlier, if we don't get money, we would take it from a person who's not from that space. But first and foremost, we want to get investment from someone who has been in ed tech before and who has helped scale ed tech companies that are in our niche. So educational products that have been used by educational institutions, not just other category of ed tech products. Sure. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And someone who actually wants to impact on a very big scale, because colleges have a big user base. So impact students and professors in millions of scale.
So last thing, the timeline to hit your goals. We do kind of a timeline. Where do you need to be? When do you expect to raise? Where do you expect to be in the next, let's say, 3 to 6 months?
Right. So we're not looking to raise until the next 6 months, because as of now, we have two goals. The first goal is to get the product demo ready for the tech conference event that we have in June, because at that there we have thousands of investors that are going to visit the tech conference.
You excited?
So and a little nervous, but yeah. Investors from all over the world are going to be there. So we want to get the product demo ready and give the investors a hands-on experience if they want to try the product. Explain
the format of the tech conference. Are you going through a pitch deck? How's this formatting working? Is it like a 10-minute slot? What are you doing?
No. So we are given the conference has segregated the startups in 3 sectors. So there are pre-seed startups that have booths, then there are scalable startups, and then there are beta startups. So we have a booth there for a single day where the attendees can come see us and explore our product.
That'll be so fun. Dude, yeah. I got to, when we secured our partnership this summer for my company, That is an amazing experience. We set up a booth. We had like we had these like little screens. And we were running our software, and you were gonna love it. Like that is such a fun experience, and just network, dude. Like don't be afraid. You're gonna be afraid, but me and my partner, we marched right up to the most important guy in there and introduced ourselves. You got to be like that. I mean, you got to really, say this is who I am, like, and introduce yourself. And they might say get away. They're not going to do that, but they might be. If they see a young guy though that's really passionate about what they're doing, anybody's going to want to at least talk to him, hear him out, and focus on building that network. Obviously we're going for a close, but focus on building that relationship first. It'll really help you in the long run.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the next 3 months, we would get the product at the MVP level.
Got it.
So we can actually raise funds after that.
Yeah, and that's good. And I would say another way to entice investors. If your whole pitch is we're making a better UI, get some Figma designs. Get 8 Figma designs. You computer science major, you could do that. Or one of your is one of your guys UI UX focus, or is that you?
I am.
Okay, you are. So you're that guy.
Yeah, I do the product design, and a lot of the product has been actually coded and developed.
Okay. So I'll tell you this. I mean, from the investor standpoint, even having a clickable Figma model is enough for investors. They don't need the full app. People think they do. Of course, it would be great to have them, but if all you can do is you have all the Figma designs built out, just allow the investor to click through at the end of your pitch deck. The biggest thing is you need money for this company. I'm not saying you need it tomorrow, but you definitely need funding. Like your type of company, you're going for a big vision, you're going for a big, goal. And I feel like the biggest thing you can do today is get as many free trials, get as many people as you can, either on the wait list or, get them in the door until you raise. But your main focus, and this is why we like to build the timeline, is you are in raise mode. You need to get the pitch deck. You need to obviously work with your team to work on the product. But your main goal these next couple months is to get funded. Why? Because if we don't get funded in 3 months, we don't have a company. Definitely. That's the truth. And you have to be desperate. You have to be like, no, this is something I do on the side. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to build what you want to build. Tomorrow, you need to start working on that deck, and you need to start reaching out to investors. And I'll tell you another thing too about investors. They're going to tell things that I didn't mention, that you're going to know from meeting with them. And I know you're going to this tech conference, and all of those too, make sure you get film footage of that. You probably already on top of that. Make sure you do all that. But I don't want you to bank everything on that. I want you to be proactive. And right now you're trying to meet with investors, because when you get to that tech conference, you want to be prepared. You don't want to be like, oh, this is my first time talking to an investor. You got to be ahead of that.
Definitely.
So that's where I want to see you. I want to see you tomorrow. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to give your plugs, everything you want the guests to do, and maybe your closing thoughts.
Yep. So I would love to have you guys get in touch with me and get more curious about the product. I would love to share it with you guys. And if you're curious to know about how the product looks and how it's going to turn out, we would love to have you join our wait list. And you can see in the description below.
Absolutely. Guys, in the description below, you better join his wait list. If you're watching this video, you got this far, you better join his wait list. I'm going to be really upset with you. So you better do that. And I just want to kind of conclude this and just say, I love the passion. You're a very smart guy. Make these decisions today, make these decisions every day, and be intentional and be desperate, because desperation, I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy, but how he got over the hump was he was so desperate that he made it work. And I feel like sometimes when you're in college or you're in university and you're kind of working, you kind of put it on the back burner. This needs to be like, I have to make this work at all costs. And some people might get offended by that and say, you need to have this balance. But when you're trying to make it pre-seed, there's not a whole lot of balance, Yeah. I mean, it is every day waking up thinking, how can I make this better? And to go back to the sales thing, if I'm not selling, I'm every day, my stomach's hurting. I need to be ready to do it. It's not for everybody. Entrepreneurship's not for everybody to be successful. I think you got it in you. I see that fire. You just have a good smile. You got good energy. I love it. But we need to get you a little bit refined. We need to refine you. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And so this is what I'm going to do. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I really appreciate our guests. Y'all show him love in the comments. Give him all that.